that make any sense?
Okay, it is now 6:30. This is the special meeting of the Washington City Council. And I'll call the meeting to order. And Mr. Attorney at Law, Tim Butler,
Yes.
I'll turn it over to you and let you run with this.
Yes, this is for the benefit of the council and the parties. This is a hearing on an appeal of a denial for Historic Review Board COA 1646 Derek Hutchins. It's for the address 114 North 3rd Street. There was, in my understanding, and I'm going to let the parties give their positions on this and their information, but obviously from the information provided, the application, as I understand it, was to provide or to apply a type of vinyl siding to the back of the building located at the address I just referred to. That application was denied by the Historic Review Board, and it was actually separated out from other matters so that there was other approvals that were given that were not in any kind of dispute, as I understand, and those have been approved, and you all have approved those. So with that, what I would like to do is I would like to have the appellant, which would be Mr. Hutchins, to come forward, state his name, and give the information that he wants the council to hear and consider, and understanding that we have the materials that you presented to the Historic Review Board already provided to us, if you can refer to those.
Okay, can I give these out also?
Sure. Yeah, when we're done, I'm going to give you a little oath of office.
Okay.
You don't have to. Bobby and I will share it.
And Mr. Hutchinson, anybody who's going to give testimony or going to speak at this hearing, if you'd raise your right hands.
Are you going to speak tonight, Joe?
No,
You gonna speak at this?
no, you're not going to speak with this.
Just stand.
Boy, we got some followers here.
Yeah, we do.
Do you swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge? If so, say I do.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. You can go ahead, Mr. Hutchinson.
The property on the first page you see is the subject property that was denied by the Historical Council. I'm appealing it because I feel that we already have vinyl siding there, and I'm looking to replace it with, it's a light kind vinyl siding. It's a more high, it's a better grade vinyl siding. It's got the 3/4 inch backboard on it. It's not a cheap wavy vinyl siding that I'm wanting to do. We tore down the other building, which I think made the city look much better, in my opinion, the shape that kind of building was in. As you can see by the pages I have here, there's several other buildings within a block radius almost that have vinyl siding, and it's got the cheaper vinyl siding on the back of their buildings. One in particular that's looks like he's adding some at this point is at 109 East Brashear. So what I'm asking today is to be allowed to, I'm wanting to take off what's there now and replace it with like kind.
And Mr. Hutchins, for the benefit of the council, is there if you can describe to us why an alternative material would be an issue for you, cause problems?
On an alternative material, it's going to have it's about 30% more cost, and on top of that, if I've got to use the board that they're requesting me to use, would be, for starters, if I take the vinyl off, then I might have to do more construction. I might have to fur out the walls and all that of the building in order to be able to add that to it. And the other is going to be, if I paint the block and do all that, well, then it's it's gonna be just long-term maintenance in the long run, and to me, it doesn't look as good and clean as the cedar plank siding that I'm wanting to put up. I feel the product that we're using, and where it's actually going at, I feel like it would be the better product to use.
And you're proposing to put this material over the block also?
Yes, this block portion, I would match it with the top portion there, the top and the side portion you see there now. I would want to match that.
And how would that, I know how you were talking about furring strips to attach the siding, how would this be attached to the block?
We could attach it directly to the block. You can actually get the screws and stuff you can use, you can attach it directly to the block.
Does council have any questions for Mr. Hutchins?
And this particular vinyl too, will not have in the summer, how you see some of the vinyl siding has that wavy look and things like that. It's not gonna have that because it's got that 3/4 inch insulation backboard, which actually protects the building also.
The cedar board vinyl, is it a white vinyl such as on?
No, it's more of a like a cream color type vinyl.
Okay. But it's the same texture, same flat white,
It's the same texture,
Yeah.
not the same texture.
nothing to do with cedar?
No.
Okay.
That's just what they,
That's just what they call it.
Yeah,
Okay.
they call it a cedar vinyl.
I think what he's referring to, it does have some sort of type of wood grain to it. It's not a heavy wood grain, but it does have wood grain.
It's not like a smooth.
It's almost, well, it's almost like the same vinyl siding that I put up on 206 West Beale Street.
Yeah, and Mr. Hutchins, you had supplied some photographs here, as Barbara pointed out. There's a couple here, 116 Stephen Foster, is that west or east?
Oh, I'm sorry, it'd be, yeah, that's where the primitive crow is, right behind Wilson Muir Bank.
That's the old Larry Langland's office.
So that would
Okay.
be east.
That'd be
Yeah, the
east.
east.
Yeah, it's east. This,
And then the 118 Stephen Foster,
That's Newcomb property with us.
Yeah, Newcomb's property, the house there at Newcomb.
That's east. And then the last one.
One of the last through, that's George Lawrence's house.
Yeah, the 202 is where the Kelly law offices used to be right across from Steve. That's east. They're all east, yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
That 109, that hasn't been, I've never been. They put that siding on that hasn't been too many. I can't recall, but I remember when that was done.
I don't think it's actually completed.
No, it's only half of it.
Huh?
Only half of it's got vinyl on it,
Oh.
George never did finish the other half.
Oh, that's what happened.
He puts on a couple pieces a year on that.
But I knew, I mean, it ain't been years ago.
No, you're right.
It's recent.
Yeah, and I understand the review board, you know, they see, if you can see it from a street or an alleyway, that's when it's not recommended, but, I mean, you can see all these from the street or alleyway in town, so.
anything else from the council or from Mr. Hutchins? Thank you, sir. And now we'll let appellees, which would be the Historic Review Board, and I think the Roche is going to provide information. And you recognize you're under oath, so let us know what you believe is relevant information.
Absolutely, thank you. Most people don't know that Bardstown is a founding community of preservation. Bardstown was one of the first communities in the nation and the very first in the state of Kentucky to adopt historic zoning. And this is all extremely important because Bardstown is a pinnacle in the area of preservation. So it receives grants annually because of the historic nature and what has been already preserved within this community. So please look at Exhibit A, the Historic Review Board minutes. Our guidelines, which are based on national preservation standards, state clearly that vinyl is not an appropriate material. There was not an application for the additional vinyl siding at this address. More than likely, it was added before our guidelines were established in 2008 and written. So vinyl siding has not been approved where it is visible from a public way since 2008, when our guidelines was established. So this business, including the rear of the property, is very important and a very visible location. It is seen from the streets, the parking lot, and it's a very vital component of our downtown district. So Mr. Hutchins plans on making a portion of the rear building an outdoor patio and dining area. So you can see how noticeable that would be, and it's a very prominent location within our downtown district. So if you take a look at Exhibit B, these are excerpts from our design standards, remember, established in 2008, that conflict with the vinyl siding. I've listed several of them there for you all to look at. The additional vinyl siding conflicts with new construction standards, specifically NC5 and NC6, as well as many others that you can see that are listed there. You cannot look around the historic district and go by what you see, because these decisions were made in the past before our standards were adopted. So you can't say, I like to do this because my neighbor did it, or because so-and-so did it. That's not vital enough, because our standards weren't written and they weren't in place. So my board has made a stance that they will not continue to allow material that will be approved by our standards today. So if you take a look at Exhibit C, which is the final thing today, based on our own preservation guidelines that are based on the Secretary of Interior's standards of rehabilitation, those are national standards. They're not just ours. These are based on the National Park Service and what they recommend. You cannot allow decisions to continue just because they were not allowed before. That isn't progress, that isn't preservation. That's a decision that That's a decision that diminishes the integrity of the historic structure, which is the very nature of what we're trying to protect and preserve here in Bardstown. Last, I want to quote the U.S. Department of Interior's National Park Service Preservation Brief number 8, which is aluminum and vinyl siding on historic buildings specifically. And I quote, "Because of the possible negative impact on the historic character of the building and the historic district or setting in which the building is located, because the application of material such as vinyl siding can either destroy or conceal historic building materials and features, and in consequence, result in the loss of the building's historic character, they are not recommended by the National Park Service." Please consider, and going back to what I initially said at the beginning, and how much I love this town and what all we're trying to do, please consider all that Bardstown represents in terms of preservation. You know, think about what it is, think about its history and how important it is in this area, and consider that when making your decision tonight. Please help me and my board continue to make Bardstown beautiful, as well as remaining historic. Thank you all. Yes.
Before you go,
Yes.
we'll answer questions here.
Absolutely, so sorry. Go right ahead. Any questions?
I do.
Business
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any exclusions, or are there any grandfathering in? What about, how do we keep track of the ones that did not comply with our standards?
Basically, we have a written record of every property in the historic district, and I have files maintained on that. So if I do not have an application in which you requested to put vinyl siding on there, that means one of two things. Either it was put on there without the board's approval, or it means that basically it was done before 2008 when our guidelines were permanently established. And so that's the point of which we don't know. In this case is whenever there's a new construction, we go by our guidelines and saying, we don't want this to continue. It's not something that's appropriate. It's not something that's bad. It's just not part of our guidelines and what the national standards go through. So we go by the stance, and my board goes by the stance that, okay, new construction, we're not going to continue to allow that. We're going to make Bardstown better. We're going to make it more historic, more accurate. So we're not going to go further with those decisions that were made in the past. Yes.
I have a question. When staff prepared the application for the Historic Review Board meeting, you noted all these non-residential construction in C1, but the siding and trim is not noted in there. Why is that?
In the original application?
Because, excuse me, now you're presenting it as evidence, but it was not in the original review.
Whenever it was discussed that there were other properties that had the vinyl siding and not ours, which was brought up initially, I wanted to be prepared in saying, yes, we're aware of that, but we don't want to continue that. So yes, that was done, that was allowed, but this is another one of the standards that just says whenever we do new construction, and it's kind of a catch-all with new construction, it covers siding and trim. So basically it's saying do not do anything that is not historically accurate with the structure, not time appropriate. And of course, since vinyl siding was introduced in the 1960s, when it became quite apparent, it's not original to the structure. So it's partially,
You're not answering my question.
Yeah.
It was, you're giving it as evidence now.
Yes.
The siding and trim state, but it's not in the original application when the board reviewed it. Why was it not in the original? Why was it not pointed out in the original and it's now, but now, why wasn't it presented as evidence originally?
because in the new construction standards, it specifically states not to use material that is not historically accurate with the structure, which covers siding and trim.
Okay.
And I'm sorry I didn't make that clear the first time.
So how can, would he be allowed to use concrete board?
The alternate material that we discussed was cement board.
So that is something that is just new that's come out in the last several years.
Yes.
How is it different than that, and then the lack of maintenance?
Because it is not
Because what I'm trying to seek is here, the justification. Yeah, I could see maybe the real cheap vinyl siding versus that, but putting up the concrete board, I mean, it's, like I said, it's just come out in the last several years and just been adopted. No difference than the concrete post versus the wood post. You can't tell the difference, and the stability of it is a whole lot better than going back and try to buy a wood post and replacing those, and then they rot out after a few years. So my bottom line here is you can justify not vinyl because it's just come out, but get concrete board in a couple of years too, and one looks just as good as the other. Can you explain that?
Well, not necessarily to our board. One doesn't look as good as the other, and not to the National Park Service. So basically, the National Park Service accepts the cement board as somewhat acceptable when it's in the rear of a property, and that's how we try to mediate. So yes, we don't want to be firm hand. We want to work with the property owners. We want these properties to be maintained. So cement board is a way we kind of meet in the middle. No, we don't like to do vinyl, but we do like to do cement board. And that's extremely important. So it's a mediation type thing. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it appropriate? Somewhat in a sense, it's more appropriate than vinyl. So that was our catch. We were trying to mediate and come to a conclusion. It was not accepted. So, and we do not want to accept vinyl.
So at least the concrete board is a 30 to 40% increase over the vinyl, which, you know, I would restrict on the kind or the makeup of the vinyl, but at it'd probably around a 40% increase.
Are you talking about price-wise?
On the concrete board.
Unfortunately, my board can't take price into consideration. We have to look at everything as what is most important for the structure. We do consider, I promise we do, but we can't take that into our decisions, because if we take all that, then vinyl would be over every house in the front and the sides and the back and everywhere. It's always more cost effective, it's more affordable, but it's not accurate.
And it's my understanding that as the National Preservation Board or whatever the appropriate entity is, as they evaluate new building materials, that the standards change
And we incorporate them, absolutely.
Right, and is that why there was a change in 2008 and 2012?
Yes, among many other things, and to deter specific things that came about that necessarily weren't predicted when the guidelines were written.
And I don't know if you've seen the pictures that were provided us of, I know you're probably familiar with some of the places that were referred to, the house next to the 5-star Marathon downtown. And, as far as you know, are those post-2008, post-2012
I do not
installations?
know. I'm not sure without having to look at the record automatically, but I do know specifically that this property was before 2008 that we are discussing tonight. but I'm not certain without looking at the files for the rest.
So does the National Preservation Board, when they come down and say that these are the guidelines, you will abide by them or else? Or is it one of these things that here's what we would like, here's what we're talking about, here's what we're interested in? Or do they say, these are your new guidelines and you will abide by these?
They come down and say, here are the guidelines, we would like for you to abide by them, and if you do, we give you grant money. And so that's what it ultimately boils down to. And so not only that, but to maintain the historic integrity of the district, we want to be as accurate and appropriate as possible. So this is why our guidelines are in state. No, necessarily we will not be burned away or destroyed if we do not abide by them, but our reputation as being a premier community in preservation will definitely diminish.
Is one of your all's concerns, I know this has been expressed to me in the past, one of your all's concerns that, and it would be my concern, is that if you use what someone else used as justification, then it would seem to me, what would be, how would you, if the justification is that the person next door's got vinyl or the person down the street's got vinyl, how could you all stop vinyl anywhere?
That's what we're trying to do tonight, literally. So at that point, if you say, because so-and-so has vinyl, I want vinyl, my board is trying to stop it because it's not appropriate, it's not what we're recommending, it's not what the national standards recommend. So we are not allowing it at this point. Now, of course, it has happened in the past. There's evidence, you can see that. But we're trying to stop that from continuing to happen. Because at some point, all siding has to be replaced. And that's where we come into effect. And that may be 30 years from now, but our board will still be intact and be able to address those issues when they do come up. And if we allow this to happen, Mr. Butler, for instance, if we allow one person to do this, it might be a continuing slope in which others would request to as well.
It's called setting precedents.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Anybody else have any questions? I wouldn't mind hearing from Chairman Bogart.
Yes.
And
Well,
we've got about 7 minutes.
I think Keisha asked that question about some clarification. There's no grandfathering in other words.
No, there's not. Yes, Mr. Butler.
Since there's an option to the vinyl, and I thoroughly believe that we're going to be setting a precedence by approving it to further down the road. If you want to stop this practice, then we can't set that precedence. My problem I've got is the existing vinyl and the existing structures that, just like was stated earlier, there's still ongoing construction on that's not being dealt with. To get these vinyl out of the historical, there should be a mechanism in place to deal with these buildings that are in our historical district to either change or give them a time frame change instead of letting them grandfather in, just sit there. That one house that's unoccupied for years now. It needs to either be done something with or come within compliance.
Usually it's...
That way you can say, tell that man aware that everybody else is within compliance or going to come within compliance. And we can't set a precedence to this vinyl, and you have an option of the clapboard to go with.
It's usually done on replacement, just like this one when he's replacing it.
When it's replaced, that's when we try to address it.
Yeah, he's proposing to replace it.
But you gotta understand, this is, what he's gonna do is on the back, what he has presented is out actually visible from the street.
And then our
There's a
argument
difference.
to coincide with that is that, yes, it is the back of the structure, but it's in a very prominent, very visible location. It is our downtown district. It's going to be an outdoor dining area. People are going to see this. So it is, you can see it from the parking way, both sides of the street. So because it is such an prominent and important location, that's why we don't want to continue with the vinyl.
7 minutes.
Would you like me to sit down?
Yeah, that would be one.
Sorry.
Am I allowed to say something?
Yeah, here in just a second. Mr. Bogart, I know that you raised your hand. Would you just, in a couple of minutes, address some of the issues about the timing? I know you've had longer tenure, and maybe you can address some of the properties we're talking about, and you can do that very quickly.
Okay, I'd like to speak to that.
Mr. Butler, I'm gonna give you 3, then I'll give Derek 3, and then I'll close it off and I'll take a vote.
Okay, I would like to speak to what you just said and what Ms. Copeland said, asked about grandfathering in. And the whole issue is keeping very good preservation program and historic character of the city going, number one. You can look anywhere in town in the historic district and see exceptions. You can see vinyl siding, you can see vinyl windows, Anderson windows, whatever. To my knowledge and memory, and I started in 2008 as preservation administrator, the board did not approve any of the buildings that you had mentioned, Mr. Butler. And of the building next to the 5-star, that siding was put on there long before 2008, I'm sure. And so were some of the other ones. The board has not approved replacing vinyl siding with vinyl siding, has not approved putting vinyl on new construction. And let me say that this is not like an anti-vinyl regulation. This is using vinyl on walls in areas that are clearly visible, as we say, from a public way, from which is a city maintained, legally, or a city maintained street, city maintained alley, parking lot. If people want to use vinyl on a wall and you can't see it, why not? You know, it's not like no vinyl anywhere. It's vinyl from a public way. And the reason for that is because it becomes very clear when you use it that it is not anything like anything approaching visually or in terms of standard of quality the historical material. We didn't say that cement board was the only alternative material. We just suggested it because that's what we're supposed to do under Article 15 of the zoning regs. If we recommend denial of an application, we have to suggest an alternative to the property owner. You can't just say, no, you can't do it. We try to work with the property owner and make it easier. I think Mr. Hutchins' alternative was paint. Wood siding is an alternative. I mean, I could think of other ones that could be done. But this is really about setting a precedent and a potentially bad precedent for historic preservation, because if you approve vinyl siding that's visible from a public way, which could be the front from the street, could be the back where you have a clear area that's viewable, and I don't mean having our staff go peeking around trees from an alley and trying to find vinyl, but where it's clearly visible, then what you've done is open the floodgates to applications where you could have vinyl almost anywhere that's visible from a public street. And what you do, once you do that, we can't very well deny that, or have a very difficult time denying that, and you degrade preservation standards, which we're obligated to follow under Article 15 of the zoning regs.
Mr. Bowler, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Derek, you have 3 minutes, and then I'll call for a vote.
I just want to talk about, we talk about historic preservation, and the question I have is, we've got exposed block there now, which doesn't look really that old. That block was there when I bought the building. Behind the vinyl is block. So I'm not sure, I can understand if I was covering up an historical brick building and trying to hide the brick and the historical value of the building, but this is block. And I don't know how painting block being a suggestion is going to keep the historical preservation of that building. I mean, yeah, they make good paint, but I always say it's constant maintenance. It's not going to protect the building like the particular product that I'm wanting to use for this building and to make it look nice with the surrounding area and the surrounding property. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Close the hearing.
All right, at this time, the special meeting or special hearing is closed, and I will...
Deliberate. Decision of council B.
Okay.
Open it up for discussion.
I think it's clear. We have a historic review design guideline. We have a historic district, and it's regulated by these national organizations. It doesn't allow vinyl, so I don't think it's an arbitrary thing for us. We can't just arbitrarily decide we're going to accept some guideline and not others. We can't allow vinyl. Our guidelines don't allow it. If we think we should have vinyl, then we should change the guidelines to allow vinyl. It's clear. Whether we want to do it or other people have it, we have guidelines. If we're going to maintain our classification as a historic district, we have to uphold our guidelines. I think it's clear.
Any other discussion?
And I'll make that a motion to uphold the
Wait,
recommendation.
let me make sure there's no
No, there'll be a
discussion.
discussion after his motion.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to uphold the recommendation of the Historic Review Board.
Second that motion.
Yeah.
Discussion? All in favor? Those opposed?
I abstain.
I didn't,
And why do you abstain?
I abstain because I would need some more info of property at 109. And I remember when some of it, I would like to know what year it was found or put on it.
Ms. Copeland, I'm sorry, I didn't see your vote.
I want
Yes or
you-
no?
I said aye.
Yes, thank you.
Individual vote. Is it okay?
I've got it.
Oh, you already got it?
Ours all,
Okay.
yeah, so it's,
Bob, you was aye?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so,
passes 6-0.
yeah, the motion to uphold the
Wait a minute, when you
HRB
abstain,
order
when you
is,
abstain, that is not a county vote. I abstain.
Yes, sir, you abstain, but your vote will go with the majority, so the
Yes.
vote will be 6-0.
so,
It'll show in the minutes that you did abstain.
but it still goes with the majority of the vote.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Hutchins, your appeal is denied,
And information will come to you.
and as soon as we get all this information, we'll mail you some of the information.
All right.
Okay.